Good morning, Florida. We're here live at First Coast News. I'm Matt Kirshner, here with my co-anchor, Austin Codwalder.
Today's story is a documentary on the Cold War, explaining the fall and collapse of the Soviet Union.
In December of 1991, the world watched in amazement as the Soviet Union collapsed into 15 separate countries. Its collapse was considered by the West as a victory for freedom, a victory of democracy over totalitarianism, and it basically said that capitalism was more efficient than socialism.
The Cold War ultimately brought the Soviet Union down, but it took nearly half a century to accomplish this goal. In 1945, around the end of World War II, the Soviet Union and the United States waged a war of threatening words and fear. The Cold War was also a top concern on international affairs front. From communism's opponents' perspective, its purpose was to contain communism and avoid a nuclear conflict. But the Soviet Union aimed to spread communism to the United States, if not the rest of the world.
These two powerhouses disagreed over political, cultural, and economic differences. The United States began developing retaliatory weapons. Should the need to use them arise, these weapons were called Strategic Triad and included long-range bomber, submarine, and land missiles. This led to the first nuclear arms race, during which the two governments stockpiled as many nuclear weapons as they could in order to keep the order of government in line. Luckily, nuclear war was avoided in large part due to the scarce tactics of the Cold War.
The Soviet Union was built on the same territory as the Russian Empire, which it succeeded. After the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, the newly reformed government developed a philosophy of socialism that eventually led into the transition to communism. The breakup of the Soviet Union transformed the entire world's political situation, leading to a complete reformation of political, economic, and military alliances all over the globe.
By 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev rose to power, who was also the Soviet Union's last leader. The country was in a situation of severe stagnation, with deep economic and political problems which sorely needed to be addressed and overcome. On one level, he initiated a policy of glasnost, or freedom of speech. On the other level, he began a program of economic reform known as perestroika, or rebuilding. His economic reform didn't have the immediate results that he had hoped for and had publicly predicted. The Soviet people consequently used their new allotted freedom to speak, to criticize Gorbachev for his failure to improve the economy.
He did not want to crack down too severely on the participants in this movement, yet at the same time it became increasingly evident that allowing them to run their course would spell disaster for the Soviet Union, which would completely collapse if the periphery republics were to demand independence. The United States rejoiced as the Soviet Union fell. We watched as our formidable enemy was brought to its knees, ending the Cold War, which had threatened them and had been hovering over these two superpowers since the end of World War II.
That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Matt Kirshner and Austin Codwalder as my co-host with First Coast News.
Have a nice day.